All right. Well, I guess the Toronto Blue Jays didn't want the celebrating to end after the big Vladimir Guerrero Jr. contract, so they'd go head into Boston and decide to pick up a win. Why not?
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, down on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. As always, I'm Braden Iwasco. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5Iwasco. Carter First, too, as well, on our big one, at Locked On Jays on Twitter. Make sure you guys go follow us on there. We're going to use that probably more often than our personals. I'm still going to use my personal. Carter still probably going to use his, but that's going to be our main focus. So make sure Locked On Jays on Twitter. Follow us there. As well on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays. If you're new here to YouTube or you're listening anywhere else, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It helps us out a ton, keeps us at the top of your guys' page. You guys get your videos, your shorts, your live streams, your podcasts, all that's sort of everything. And lots to talk about today. We're going to talk about the Blue Jays win, a little bit of the storylines coming out of Game 1 versus Boston. But a big topic of conversation coming out of yesterday, or 2 days ago, I guess it would be, after the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. contract came out, was what happens with Bo Bichette. Hazel May actually went out and got us some information, so we will break down all of that for you guys in the second segment, so stick around until then. And third segment, we're going to tee up the rest of the series because we didn't really get a ton of time yesterday with the whole Vlad news dropping to really dive into the series, what our predictions were going to be. Me and Carter are just going to re-go over everything and sort of what we're seeing out of Boston so far. Carter, let's kick things off. I mean, good Jays win. Jose Berrios looked unbelievable, but where do you want to start with this one?
I think we start with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., the golden child of the Toronto Blue Jays. Clearly didn't party hard enough yesterday, and it didn't transfer over into this game, because if he had a little bit of a hangover, he still had a very good performance against the Boston Red Sox. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. being all about business, still going 2 for 4 in the effort. Again, very good at bats throughout the game, still hitting the ball hard. I think Vladdy is very close to breaking out this season, very close to getting that power back, very close to going on a very big run, because the at-bats are there, the power is there, the exit velocities are there. All the underlying numbers are pointing to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. being successful. The eye test, everything's passing it, other than the actual outcomes, other than the actual gap hitters, the down the line shots, the home run shots. Everything is starting to come together. I think sooner than later, we're going to see Vladimir Guerrero Jr. have a massive breakout, and we'll see the power all come together at once.
Yeah, that's something we're all obviously waiting for, but we know that Vlad tends to not start the season out hitting a ton of home runs and going on this crazy, Linsanity run. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's coming. You can see it. You're right. All the pieces to the puzzle that is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in a successful season are there. And so, no, I'm really pumped about that too. And today's game sort of showed that in a nutshell, which is really, really nice to see. And I want to continue on the positives. There are a lot of positives to take away from this team right now. But going off of the whole Vlad talk, Carter, is Anthony Santander. This is a guy that, again, known as a slow starter in seasons, but his at-bats I'm a little bit more concerned with. I'm not seeing that absolute pop that he does bring yet. And again, it's still early on. I'm not super, super concerned. But as this, as series start to progress further and further, I'm tend to wonder when he's going to break out as well.
It's not the biggest issue right now, because you're getting production from Andrus Jimenez. We have George Springer in the middle of the order, who is just like MVP form all of a sudden, once again, who we'll get farther into later on in the podcast. So you got him driving the offense. You got very productive at-bats in the bottom of the order. Will Wagner's having very good at-bats against righties. Alan Roden looks good at the bottom of that order. You get Daulton Varsho back, maybe get a little bit of power there. But for right now, like, your power bats, George Springer can provide a little bit. You're hoping Bo Ken had a couple of good at-bats today. That first at-bat, very nice, obviously hammering the pitch into right center field. Doesn't get rewarded. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., as I said, the power is going to be there. But when you have Daulton Varsho coming back, those are kind of your 5 guys that are going to provide power for this team. Alejandro Kirk, you can't really rely too much on him. You'd hope Andrus Jimenez has a little bit of a breakout, but again, how long can that last? So for those 5, it's going to be integral that we see some sort of power, because throughout the first 11 games, we're 6-5. It hasn't been the biggest deal, but at some point you're going to have to get the long ball. You're going to have to rely on some power throughout this team. And Anthony Santander is going to be one of the major drivers of that power. Obviously, coming off 44 home runs, the only other one with that power potential is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. on this team. So at some point, whether it's Santander, whether it's Vladdy, whether it's Bo, whether it's, again, maybe not one of your superstars, but someone's going to have to be the power driver on this team. And hopefully it can be one of your big guys.
Yeah, and you need it to be. You absolutely need it to be. And I know we're going to get into the George Springer talk of it all. And I don't want to just brush by some of these things, but I think right now, the biggest storyline, besides obviously Vlad signing the contract in Blue Jays land, is what an exceptional start to the season he has had, and that in being George Springer. The big conversation that I know you talked to me about a little bit before the podcast, and you seeing some tweets go on, is the move back to number one. And to be honest, Carter, I know you want to ask me this, but I can't even wait to say this. Do not put George Springer back in the one hole. Bo Bichette is doing the job, being the Bo Bichette that I've wanted to see. Only went 1 for 5 yesterday, but I think all the pieces are there for Bo Bichette to be a successful leadoff hitter. I think George Springer works way better in the 4, 5, 6 hole than he does in the one hole. He's getting older. You're getting a ton of production from him there. Why change something that's working? We talk about riding the hot hand and going with guys on the streaks, right? At this point, don't hurt yourself. Don't shoot yourself in the foot. Leave George Springer where he is at, because it is working, and I love to see it. I like I said, I am never one of the guys to prey on one of our players' downfalls. If George Springer is playing very good, I am so happy and excited to give him all the props I can, because it is so much fun to watch when George Springer is playing great baseball.
See, I think this argument kind of stemmed from the move that John Schneider made in this game. It was Andrus Jimenez number 4, Alejandro Kirk at number 5, and you had George Springer predominantly being rolled out at number 6. They obviously flip-flopped that today. There's been a lot of Alejandro Kirk at-bats where he's come up in clutch scenarios, and he's been popping out a ton. I don't think his at-bats have been bad, but with runners in scoring position, you haven't necessarily got the production with the guy that is the hottest hitter on the Toronto Blue Jays right now. With George Springer, I don't mind that bump up to 5. I like him in that spot. But I completely agree. It's not broken right now, so don't try to fix anything. Don't do anything drastic. We saw how it was when George Springer was in the leadoff spot and how that production was. I don't know if it goes back to being like that, but right now when you have George Springer on fire, hitting almost 500 and over 1,000 OPS, don't move anything. Don't mess with his production right now. Don't mess with anything that this guy is doing. Let him be and kind of just let him ride out this hot streak as long as he possibly can. So I think what we could see when Daulton Varsho comes back, if there is going to be some lineup changes, I think they really like Bo Bichette at the number 1 spot. He's been having very good at-bats. You have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at your number 2 spot. I think they might move him to 3 at some point. There might be some experimentation there. But I think for the most part, at least for right now, they're going to have Vladdy at 2, Santander at 3. What we could see is Daulton Varsho at number 4. I think just with the power bat, I think Varsho has a lot more power potential than Andrus Jimenez has. We'll see if that hot start from Jimenez can carry on. And then if you have Springer, then you kind of go back to Andrus Jimenez as your 6th guy, on Alejandro Kirk as your 7th guy. At that point, you're a lot more comfortable in the middle of the order, especially if they continue to produce like they have been to start the season.
Yeah, Daulton Varsho coming back is so integral to this team, because I think in our heads, we're expecting one of these years for Daulton Varsho to break out and have the offensive season that we've been waiting for. And I think this spring training really showed what he could be. And what that could be is a solid four-hole hitter. And again, if he comes back and maybe not swing it and George Springer continues to do well, I don't hate moving Springer to 4. If that's what you want to do, 4 or 5 for George Springer right now with him cooking the way he is, then that's great. I love that. But I don't know why you'd put Springer in a position where he is driving in RBIs. Why you'd put him in a position to take that away from him after he's done all this to prove himself in that 5-6 hole. So a lot to talk about with George Springer, but I think at the end of the day, and this is, I guess, a question that me and you should answer as well, is are you expecting the other shoe to drop? Are you expecting George Springer, the fall off, to come? Or do you think it'll be a little bit more gradual this year and we will see a productive year from George Springer? If you had to put an early estimate on sort of what is going to come of the George Springer situation. Where do you see this going?
Now, obviously, I don't expect George Springer to hit 1,100 throughout the entire season, have this like 450 average, but I don't expect it to be like last season. Going into this season, we kind of both said that it can't really get worse for George Springer. Just didn't really look comfortable at the plate, didn't look confident at all. Kind of just like a throwaway year for a lot of the Toronto Blue Jays, obviously. 2024, especially how 2025 started, it made me realize how much 2024 sucked. That year, especially in the back half, was horrible to watch. It was not a lot of fun doing the podcast, not a lot of fun watching the baseball games, because it looked like a lot of the guys just weren't really having a lot of fun out there, and it was not a lot of fun for the fans either. So for this 2025 season, it's been a lot better, and we're a lot more hopeful surrounding a lot of the Toronto Blue Jays baseball. So with George Springer, I think you got to kind of ride that train. I think you got to be hopeful with him as well. He hasn't really given us anything to complain about whatsoever. Again, you can't expect this production to keep going on and on and on. But I still expect George Springer to have success in the middle of the order and still be productive and give the Toronto Blue Jays quality at bats. Just maybe not up to the standard that we're seeing right now. But I don't expect this massive fall off to happen in George Springer. I still think he can be a good, solid, just contact power bat, kind of doing the all-around thing we see in the middle of the order.
Yeah, absolutely. And Carter, I guess moving away from the George Springer, because I mean, we could talk all the live long day about, the surprise start that he's had, but Jose Berrios in his bounce back since this first outing of the season, he has looked unbelievable. In a downpour rain in Boston of what it looked like, for him to go out there and chucking the ball like he was, unbelievable. I was super, super, super impressed with Jose Berrios yesterday, and everything was working. Everything he was putting out there was working, and that's what I love to see. And he was getting fired up too. He wasn't getting calls, or you would get a call. You'd see the emotion, which you don't always see with Jose Berrios. So I feel like he knew he was in a position where, hey, he knew he had a bad start. He knew he was going to have to come out the next few starts better and better and better, and that's what we've gotten. So hat tips to Jose Berrios for really putting on a show.
Yeah, like you said, we don't really see the emotion or the reactions too much from Jose Berrios on those close calls. I think part of it was the umpiring was very inconsistent tonight. We had some that went in the Toronto Blue Jays' favor. We had some the next inning that were, again, you think were strikes and they call it a ball. It was very inconsistent. So sometimes it was very streaky as well, like we've seen kind of the Toronto Blue Jays hitters be. Where like there was one inning where it'd be all Toronto Blue Jays in favor of them, and then the next inning would be in favor of the Boston Red Sox. So I think that kind of got to Jose Berrios a little bit, just that lack of consistency, which is definitely fair as a pitcher. Because if you know that, at least say the umpire is calling 2 pitches on the outside, you can kind of play to that. But if you're not going to get that every single time, that starts to obviously mess with your head a little bit. But Jose Berrios, the easiest bounce back call other than Bichette, I think, regarding the Toronto Blue Jays. Not worried whatsoever about that opening day start. This is the more traditional Jose Berrios start that we're accustomed to. Not the most strikeout numbers out there. Had only 2 Ks on the day. A little bit of hard contact, but an inning eater, very efficient throughout the innings. Had about 80 pitches through 6 innings. That's exactly what you want to see from Jose Berrios, especially with a tough road stand that you are right in the middle of. So very nice stuff to see from Jose Berrios, and just some disgusting pitches on display. He had this one slurve on the back corner, high in the strike zone. I know you don't like that high curveball, but in that scenario, absolutely disgusting pitch. Not a very happy hitter on the Red Sox side. Can't remember exactly who it was, but so many pitches like that. Again, very good command from Jose Berrios, and just a very good day from this pitching staff.
Yeah, no, I really can't complain. And it's so nice to see when you roll out Jose Berrios and he goes and has an electric start. And then you get to go Yimi, Garcia, and then Hoffman. Like that is your maybe most ideal day on the mound for these guys all just to cook and roll through and get your team a win. Right. And I think we're going to talk about it in the little bit of the series preview we're going to do, because we didn't really get too in depth on it yesterday. But the fact that you have a couple questionable games, obviously with Max Scherzer still being out, there are a little bit of question marks. So you need to get these wins when you can. And I think to throw your 2 best guys out of the pen in this one to make sure that happens, I love that play. Guys didn't have to throw a ton of pitches either, which is nice. So hopefully, maybe they don't pitch today, but they might pitch the next day. And it's not having to be this carryover with the bullpen. So we'll have to wait and see. Carter, anything else on yesterday's game that really stands out to you that you wanted to bring up?
There is some things, but I think they're a little bit bigger topics than we're going to be able to fit in this segment. But yeah, just I want to go into some Andrus Gimenez stuff, kind of loop George Springer back into this, some bottom of the order things as well. But it definitely makes things a lot easier when your starting pitcher can go 7 innings and only give up a few runs. Makes things a lot more manageable for the entire pitching staff and for the entire team when you get a quality start from Jose Berrios. But a ton more we want to get into, a bunch of stuff that we want to cover game-wise, some contract stuff that we want to get into as well. Bunch more coming up from us on Locked On Blue Jays. So stick around for this short break.
Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. You guys know how much I love FanDuel because I actually just won money on the Jays game yesterday. I had Vladdy 2 bases. I think it was Bregman to get a hit and the Blue Jays to secure the win. So that was a great one. And, you know, if I'm betting on baseball or I'm betting on hockey or the NBA playoffs, and they're almost here, FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action right now. When you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Trust me, my brother did this a while ago, and I think he's still using the bonus bets that he was awarded, and he's continually winning money through that. So make sure you guys go and take advantage. Place an easy one. Play something you know you're going to win that first $5 bet on so you can get the $250 in bonus bets. Trust me, go to FanDuel.com to get started. As we continue on here, Carter, we're going to talk about the Bo Bichette contract, what Hazel May had to say, what Bo Bichette said to Hazel May, because it sort of goes back to the topic that we were talking about yesterday and what now goes on with Bo Bichette. And we'll get into all that and more, but we still have a little bit to cover on the game itself. And we're going to touch just a little bit on the series as a whole in the third segment. So make sure you guys stay tuned, stick around. Carter, what else do you got? I know you want to talk about a little bit about the lower in the lineup guys, who's doing well, what are the plays there. But Andrus Gimenez, I think his spot is a questionable one because, again, it's like sort of the same thing to a lesser extent of the George Springer, right? Where you have two guys starting out the season way hotter than you thought they would. I think we're not seeing as crazy of that from Andrus Gimenez, especially now, but sort of the same thing. Now, what do you do with him? That's got to be a huge question on a lot of Toronto Blue Jays fans' minds right now.
Gee, we're getting the production from Andrus Gimenez that I kind of thought would be more prototypical than we saw earlier on in the season. Didn't expect him, hit 3 home runs every 5 games. That was something I was definitely happy with. But now we're sort of seeing what I think we can be consistently seeing from Andrus Gimenez throughout the entire season. Not going to hit home runs in every single game, but I'm not even going to go into the defensive stuff from Andrus Gimenez because that we could talk about for hours and hours and hours. This guy is such a smooth defender, one of the best infielders, one of the best, honestly, defenders in all of baseball, but just making an impact in multiple different facets. Defensively, on the base pass, we saw a lot today with 2 steals and just getting production with 2 outs. It doesn't take a lot if you get Andrus Gimenez on base to have an offensive threat. Got walked a few times today, stole second base, and you have George Springer coming up. This is another big scenario. George Springer coming through in multiple innings, coming through in the 3rd inning, coming through in the 5th inning, coming through in the 7th inning with runners in scoring position. That has been a common theme when the Toronto Blue Jays lose, is that they're not getting hits with runners in scoring position, which we saw in 2024. We saw this in 2023. It really has been a common theme with the Toronto Blue Jays offense in the last few seasons. So getting these runs with runners in scoring position and just getting in these scenarios where you kind of feel like the inning is gone to waste, and then you get 1 runner on, just 1 stolen base, and then you have an automatic threat. So just having that IQ on the base paths, having a guy that can play solid defense, has demonstrated power early on, is a threat on the bases, and can just be a threat in all facets of the game is so important to the Toronto Blue Jays, especially when you're not getting the power right now.
Yeah, and that's exactly what's so great about Andrus Gimenez, right? Because you look at his defensive game and you're like, well, if he's that good defensively, we'll just take that. That's good enough. And then you also get the offensive side of his game. And I think the signing of Andrus, or the trade of Andrus Gimenez, plus the signing of Popkins as well, and bringing him in and sort of redeveloping this offense and taking advantage of situations where you can steal. And then you have the opportunity for George Springer to get those RBIs because Andrus Gimenez has done the work. And I think all that plays into the Toronto Blue Jays trying to be more successful, like you said, with runners in scoring position. They have to generate other ways of not only getting guys there, but being successful in those scenarios. And I think Andrus Gimenez is a catalyst for what this new offense is. It is about being quick, being decisive in your decision making, and all these things that come into play. He thinks quickly. You can see it on the diamond. The baseball IQ is there for this guy, and that's something I absolutely love. It is the game smarts, the baseball IQ. That's something a player like him really needs, and helps this team as a whole succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. When you have guys that can do just so many different things for your baseball team, you don't have to have these massive superstars that are going to go out and you'll have produce those Aaron Judge numbers, those Shohei Ohtani numbers. You can have players that can help in multiple different ways. And no matter what, as long as they're is being helpful and being productive to helping your team win a baseball game, it doesn't necessarily have to be that power bat. It doesn't have to be the offensive scoring. You can help in multiple other facets as well. There is one more thing I wanted to go over, and then there is some contract stuff that we did want to go into, is that I noticed a guy that I have never heard of in my entire life coming in for the Boston Red Sox. Robert Stock came into the baseball game. I have to look this guy up because I had no idea who he was in the 8th inning. It's still a relatively close game here. Like the Toronto Blue Jays are within a few runs. It's almost a save situation. This guy hasn't pitched in the major league since 2021. If the Toronto Blue Jays pitched a guy like this, he's allowing a million runs. Like, there's just no way we're getting out of the 8th inning. You have the Jose Cuasas that come in and, throw 3 pitches, and then there's somehow 3 runners on base. You have Yariel Rodriguez coming in and giving up a million. Richard Lovely, like Sergio Romo. These random guys always got absolutely shelled by opposing teams. And then you have Robert Stock coming in against the Toronto Blue Jays with Alan Roden, Bo Bichette, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Nothing to scoff at the plate. And it's the easiest 1-2-3 inning of all time. It's a little bit frustrating to see, a guy that is not well known whatsoever, hasn't pitched in the major leagues in multiple years, and you can't really do damage to him at all.
That's classic Toronto Blue Jays. I mean, it's again goes back to the fact that we haven't seen the explosion from Anthony Santander, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., right? We haven't seen that quite yet, and we know it's coming, and eventually maybe they will. But it is very Toronto Blue Jays of them to not do that as well. So pretty interesting, Carter. But I do want to get into the Bo Bichette of it all and not take this episode too crazy long, because we did do an insanely long one yesterday. So we don't want to give you guys 9 hours of stuff to try to listen to before Wednesday. Hazel May spoke to Bo Bichette about a possible extension of his own and winning championships with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. This is what Bo Bichette had to say. It has been my goal since I was a kid to be with one organization my whole career and building a winning culture with Vladdy. But nothing's on the table right now. So this is what me and you had talked about for a while, about, the rumors that there has been no contract offer to Bo Bichette. And to be honest, I think Bo wants it right now. I think if the Toronto Blue Jays would lay down a contract, I think he's jumping at the bit. And I know there's going to be a lot of people that say that's not the case. I think you're wrong. I think Bo Bichette wants to be a Toronto Blue Jay. And for people saying that he wants to test the market, I think the Blue Jays can get this done in season. I really do. Just with everything that he has said lately about wanting to see an offer, I think he really wants to stay. And I think that is only, or especially now that Vlad is signed, I think that makes Bo want to stay even more. So I am fully on the side of Bo Bichette needs to be a Toronto Blue Jay. If we were campaigning this long for Vladimir Guerrero Jr., I'm ready to go right back at it for Bo Bichette. I want Bo Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to be lifelong Toronto Blue Jays and to be playing together and hopefully winning championships.
It's funny when we talk about these contract negotiations. It's always been Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette. Can you keep both of them, or can you prioritize one over the other? And the narrative was always Vladimir Guerrero Jr. wants to stay with the Toronto Blue Jays. He wants to stay in Canada. Whereas Bo Bichette, the first chance that he is going to get, he is going to test free agency. Then you see the quotes that Bo Bichette says. He talks about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He talks about the organization. If you're strictly looking at that, I don't think Bo Bichette has ever said that he wants to leave Toronto. I think it's been nothing but, I want to spend my career with Toronto. I want to win championships. I want to go to a winning ball club. But it was always, the sentiment was that if the Toronto Blue Jays can be competitive and provide that winning ball club, that he would prefer to stay with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and stay with the Toronto Blue Jays. I think with Bo Bichette, I think obviously there is interest there, but like I said on our last live stream that we did for the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. signing, is that where do you even start the Bichette contract negotiations? Like, where's the number that he's starting out? How do the Toronto Blue Jays view him? Obviously, because we've seen Bichette, we know how good Bichette is, but just because of that last season, does that diminish his value? Do the Toronto Blue Jays use that kind of as leverage against Bichette? Like, hey, do we really know what kind of baseball player you are? So I don't know if you can start it at $250 million. If it starts at $200 million, maybe base it off of Willie Adames. But now with the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. contract at $500 million, you got to assume that based off that contract, a lot of the players that if you are an all-star caliber player, you're going to ask for $200, $300 million because you have that basis of $500 million from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. So I think it's just going to be a tough starting place between these two sides, but I think it'd be better if you start that process right now rather than waiting to the offseason, no matter how good or bad Bichette is this season.
No, that's exactly what I'm saying too, is that like, I don't know what the number is personally, because me and you both think this way about Bichette and I think this goes back to what Justin Powers, I think our roommate commented on one of our videos saying, what do you base a guy's career off of if you think he's going to be a good player or a bad player, right? Well, you take a look at what year is the anomaly year. Last year was Bichette's anomaly year. Bichette has been fantastic the rest of the time. So he probably does deserve a good amount of money, but those contracts can't be talked about if nobody's sitting down to talk about them. So I think the Blue Jays' next step now is to get in a room with Bichette and his agent and try to get something done. And see, I just want to hear what the numbers sound like, because I don't know what Bichette's thinking. I don't know what the Toronto Blue Jays organization is thinking, but I think at least finding out what everyone's thinking in their own heads is probably a good idea, and not probably so smart to wait till the season ends.
Yeah, I think with Bichette, it's going to really depend on who he's comparing his contract to. If he's comparing it more to the position group, if it's like the Trey Turners, the Carlos Correas, the Lindors, where it is around that 300,000, or if he is going kind of doing what Vladdy did and go out of that position where he's comparing to Juan Soto, if Bichette's comparing to the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. contract, I think at that point is where you could see them struggle to gain common ground. You could struggle to see the Toronto Blue Jays reach a number that Bichette wants, because the Toronto Blue Jays clearly are willing to spend. You don't hand out a $500 million contract if you aren't going to spend in future off seasons. But how many big contracts can this team afford to give out? You have Max Scherzer coming off the books. You have some bullpen guys coming off the books. Chris Bassitt again. You're going to have to go out and get a starting pitcher next season. Kevin Gausman the following year is coming off the books. So you got to assume that they're going to adhere some of their salary to the starting pitching. So are they going to want a guy, if they want to go out and get an ace like that Michael King, that Dylan Cease, Zach Gallen, who we always talk about? Are they going to be willing to go out and give these guys $30+ million a year? Also have a Bichette contract that could be $250 to $300 million a year, and also have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. into a $500 million contract? Is really going to test the spending limits of Rogers and Edward Rogers and this front office entirely to see how much they are willing to invest in this Toronto Blue Jays roster.
Carter, I'm going to say something here, because we've talked about how, you can't go out and you can't sign, you can't sign too many of these great, amazing players. Well, Rogers just signed the TV deal with the NHL, worth a ridiculous amount of money. This company, Edward Rogers, is not afraid to spend money. So for your baseball team, at some point, you're going to have to make big signings. And right now, I think Edward Rogers is thinking, I'm going to invest in a little bit of the future here with the NHL TV deal, with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and with possibly Bichette. I think there's a lot of things pointing to the fact that Edward Rogers is understanding the situation he is in and the ability to not only spend money, but to make money. And so shout out Edward Rogers for absolutely dropping the bag in the past little bit here. Good on him. Good on him. We've been asking for this and we got it. So we'll see what happens with Bichette. Carter, let's get into the series a little bit. When we come back, we'll take a quick break, tee up a little bit of what's going on in today's game and the rest of the series when we come back. Today's episode brought to you by Just Ingredients. When it comes to fueling your body, quality matters. That's why Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Just Ingredients offers an NSF certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine. I've used their protein. I've used their pre-workouts. Their pre-workout is so good. It's like almost replaced the coffee for me. I am so ready to go. And when I go to the gym, I want to be ready. I want to be good to go. And I use their pre-workout. Their protein's amazing. It tastes great. I know I go through a lot of different proteins and I'm like, this one doesn't really taste fantastic. It doesn't feel good. I don't feel good after drinking it. So I switched to Just Ingredients because it does. It tastes great. It feels great. I really do suggest it. All rigorously tested to ensure they're free from substances banned by major athletic organizations. Just Ingredients has also partnered with two-time MVP Bryce Harper, who trusts their NSF-certified sports line to fuel his training and recovery. And that's why they're coming on here as well, because they know that I am also a premier athlete. Visit justingredients.us and use code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off. And for more wellness tips, follow Just Ingredients, just.ingredients on Instagram. I thought you would like that one.
Yeah, best athlete on Locked On podcast, I guess. Hey, Braden Owasco, give him the award.
That's what they say. That's what they say. They're like, this guy, beer league softball, might be the GOAT. And I'm like, well, not going to deny it. Not going to deny it.
Yeah, some are saying that it's becoming a political award anyway, so it doesn't really go to the most skilled player anyway. So it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. But we do have a series to preview. Obviously, MLB.com pulling a fast one on us. Toronto Blue Jays pulling a fast one on us a little bit as well. We thought it was going to be the Easton Lucas Day. Ended up being the Jose Berrios Day. A very good pitching match for the Toronto Blue Jays. Now we have the reverse of that. We kind of wanted to win that game looking at this matchup here because on paper, obviously you would side with the Boston Red Sox. They have Garrett Crochet on the mound. Just signed him to their own massive extension. And we have Easton Lucas, our own king, though, coming off of his best performance in his short major league career. Big win from over the Boston Red Sox, especially with the two teams coming from very different places. Toronto Blue Jays just getting swept by the New York Mets. The Boston Red Sox coming off a 5-game winning streak after starting the year 1-4. Big win for the Toronto Blue Jays with all things considered. The other two matchups do not change. Still get Tanner Houck and Kevin Gausman on the Wednesday. And then you have Chris Bassitt, Walker Buehler on that Thursday. I think you said you wanted a 3-1 series win here, right? You said that you wanted to see them kind of, reverse the script and, get a massive win over an AL East opponent.
That's right. I did. I want to see a 3-1. I don't know if that's necessarily in the cards. I'm looking at the pitching matchups right now, and Easton Lucas versus Crochet is just a tough outing for a young guy, a guy that just came off a great win and probably a confidence booster the last time he went out. That's tough. It's going to be a tough one out there. I pray that the offense shows up and can help this guy out a little bit. It's going to be interesting to see how he now comes off his last win. And if he can bring anything forward, I'm really interested. But then obviously the Kevin Gausman, Tanner Houck game and the Chris Bassitt, Walker Buehler game, I think those two are probably where you're targeting the wins. Yes, if you can somehow scrape by and get the Easton Lucas win, that's unreal. Great. But I think when you look at those two games, or the rest of the 3 games, Carter, I think this one is the one that the Toronto Blue Jays are quote unquote expected to lose. And then the other two might be battled. So I'm praying for a 3-1, but I could see it being a 2-2 as well.
Yeah, Easton Lucas is coming into a Boston Red Sox lineup that is red hot, obviously coming off of an 18-run performance against the St. Louis Cardinals. But hey, only coming off a 2-run performance against Jose Berrios, but we know Jose Berrios is an absolute dog. But just going through this lineup, obviously Rafael Devers just didn't have a very good start, but obviously we know he is very back and he has a lot of potential. Jarren Duran just continuing to be a menace to Jose Berrios. I think it was it a first pitch double? The first at-bat was for sure a double. Might not have been the first pitch, but continues to just be obviously a tough at-bat. Alex Bregman, Wilyer Abreu is just being the toughest out of all time, continuing his success from last season. Pretty deep lineup the Boston Red Sox do have, so definitely going to be a tough matchup for Easton Lucas. But if the Toronto Blue Jays continue to keep doing jobs, continue to get hits in these clutch scenarios, get sacrifice flies, just continue to score runs, you assume it's going to take quite a few runs with the Boston Red Sox lineup and the Easton Lucas start. You just got to hope that they can remain competitive. You hope that throughout 5 innings, it could be a close game and then the bullpen can kind of take over and it's just whoever wants it more after that. It would definitely help out, though, if we get a massive home run from whether it's Santander, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. home run would do absolute numbers. We need a home run from one of our big guys just to kind of ignite some life into this fan base.
I agree. And I think that'd be one way I could see the Toronto Blue Jays pulling this one off is a early bomb from one of our big dogs. And you know, putting say there's a runner or two on base and getting that big lead. I think that would really spark this offense and what this team needs moving forward throughout this series. But it's saying that, Carter, I said I wanted to get the people out of here on a decent time today after the hour and 6 minute episode we put out on Monday. So again, always appreciate you guys watching, listening to the podcast, so however you consume everything. Those of you joined the live, we really appreciate you guys. Killed it. We had 67 concurrent viewers in here at some point, or 70, whatever it was. Really appreciate all the comments, everything. It was excellent, and hopefully you guys are just as pumped about the Vladdy signing as we are. Carter, before we get out of here, you got anything else to throw in?
No, just exciting times to be a Toronto Blue Jays fan. Finally, some certainty for the future for the Toronto Blue Jays. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. going to be here for his entire career, but some important series ahead of us, some important wins that we're looking to get. And hopefully the Toronto Blue Jays can make our dreams come true and give us a good month of baseball that we desperately need as a fan base. Thank you guys for watching, and we will be back with you guys tomorrow.